You know, when discussing government, it seems all of our energies are spent either on dysfunction, scandal, or abuse of power. Think about even what we discussed this hour. In the hyper-partisan world that is Washington, making government an agent of change seems only to be the case if it's rewarding a special interest group, or more often than not, the 1%, not exactly the neediest bunch out there. So you'd think that when a generational program that addressed a defining issue for tens of millions of Americans actually came around, and believe it or not, it actually worked, we would step back and champion our good fortune like the greatest generation did with the New Deal. But in the bizarre world that we now call Washington, success equals failure, prosperity equals poverty, and progress, it calls for repeal. I'm of course referring to Obamacare and the Republicans' obsession to undo the president's signature issue, probably because it's his signature issue. Now, they can't argue it's not working because the numbers are in. And forget the critics. It's performing better than even its own supporters had ever hoped. Now, this week, we learned that 16.4 million Americans have gained coverage under the Affordable Care Act. It's also saving even more money than projected when the administration tried getting the thing passed 5 years ago. The tax subsidies costing 20% less than was projected, and we'd have to go all the way back to 1960 to see the lowest increase in health spending compared to the most recent data. Listen, by any standard, any metric, Obamacare is an unqualified success. But of course, its critics, and let's save some time here and say national Republicans, they have spent the past 5 years peddling nonsense from everything of death panels to doing their best to scare Americans, even though Republican governors who opted in have no plans of opting out. And those same critics offer no alternatives other than wasting time and oxygen on repeal efforts that go absolutely nowhere. And all they're doing now is also crossing their fingers that the Supreme Court can find some loophole here to put America in reverse. Now, I don't think the president's blameless when it comes to this stuff either. Now, even though a recent poll by the Kaiser Foundation shows Americans more than any time since the law's passage now support Obamacare, they have come to this conclusion by personal experience or by word of mouth. Now, since the fouled-up rollout, the president, he has left it to his critics to define, let alone even name, a program that'll argue historians will stack up here with digging us out of a recession and getting Osama bin Laden as his greatest accomplishments. Listen, nothing's perfect, especially something that was birthed and enacted in Washington. But as much as the GOP would like to tell you otherwise, government can actually get things right on occasion, and sometimes even better than we ever imagined. All right, when we come back, we'll have some headlines from the Hudson Valley.